Lots to talk about in today's video, including the latest rumors around the NHL. Today's trade talk revolves around teams like Montreal, Ottawa, and the New York Rangers. It's a big day in Boston as they had their Centennial celebration. Plus, with the 3 stars of the month, news from the waiver wire, a few injury updates, and Canucks captain Quinn Hughes has set a team record. All that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have lots to discuss here today. Another interesting news day. Lots of games going on today as well. Lots of staggered action throughout the day as well, which is always good to see. I always love it when the NHL schedule aligns. You can get more action in and actually be able to take part in more of the games. Certainly we've had one big game today, which was the Bruins Centennial celebration game against their longtime and arguably biggest rival, the Montreal Canadiens. They've played more games against Montreal than any other franchise in the NHL. So certainly those two teams, longtime rivals. I mean, obviously, you think back, especially many decades ago when the rivalry was much bigger. It's been a little while since that's been renewed and revived. But certainly, still one of the best rivals in modern history here for sure between those two clubs. We saw the Bruins come out with an excellent effort, get out to a 4-0 lead. They scored 3 goals in a minute and 10 seconds in the first period and ended up winning the game. I believe it was 6-3 with an empty net goal there from Boston. So certainly a great effort under new head coach Joe Sacco, who's kind of they've been up and down under the new coaching change, but looked really good today. Montreal did have a good push to make things more interesting, but the Bruins come back obviously after an interesting type of game where they had a long ceremony to honor their history and everything. I'm sure for some teams, especially the away team, must have been challenging to kind of stay focused and get through everything and be ready to roll. And then from the Bruins' perspective, it would have probably been easy, you would think, at least it should be, to be revved up, ready to go after going through all the ceremonies and everything. But sometimes it can have the opposite effect as well. Either way, the Bruins, 100 years old here as of today, big Centennial game, and come out with a big victory. The 3 stars of the month was announced by the NHL today. Of course, the calendar today flips over to December the 1st. November has come and gone for some teams. That'll be a blessing for sure. The 3 stars of the month include Marty Necas of the Carolina Hurricanes, who has been absolutely on fire. Necas has been top scorer in the NHL, which is crazy to think. I mean, I know Necas has always been talented, and I'm not shocked to see him even have a bit of a breakout year, but to the level that he's doing it is pretty crazy. The 2nd star of the month was Avalanche power forward Mikko Rantanen, who put up 14 points in 11 games, and the 3rd star, Jets goalie Connor Hellebuyck, who put up 2 shutouts over 8 games, including a .931 save percentage. So certainly, great performances all around from those 3 guys. News from the NHL waiver wire here today. Montreal Canadiens forward Raphael Harvey-Pinard was placed on waivers. He did indeed clear today and now officially assigned to the Laval Rocket of the American Hockey League. So of course he comes off the long-term injury reserve, which was $1.1 million on his contract, and then automatically goes to that full amount can be buried. So their overall cap space not really affected here by this move. I'll be curious to see at one point he gets an opportunity to play in Montreal. In the past, he's had some good runs there. The injury he suffered, which caused him to miss significant time, certainly not good timing with his career by any means. Not that there's ever really a good time, but certainly kind of set things back for sure. A couple other injury updates as well. We got word today that Miles Wood of the Colorado Avalanche, we knew he was out again. The update from them is saying month to month. So this one's a lot more serious. He'll certainly be out for an extended time. Month to month, I would think there's a good chance he misses 2 months anyways. You never know, maybe more. So that's certainly a big blow. The Avalanche have had a really tough time staying healthy this year. Have a very challenging cap situation given what they dealt with Nichushkin early on, and of course they're still holding out hope that Landeskog can return at some point. It makes things hard for sure, and Wood is one of their depth pieces that is an important role. So for him to be out again for a long stretch is not good. In Detroit, they lost to the Vancouver Canucks today in overtime. But the worst news was goalie Cam Talbot, who's been pretty solid for them all year, left the game. I was watching the game. I saw a majority of it. I mean, there was a few little stretches here and there where I got busy with other things and missed a few little spots. But Talbot started and then he left. And he left after a Red Wings goal. Just seemed weird. I didn't see anything myself that was obvious, at least, as to what happened. So certainly, that's not good. Ville Husso, I wouldn't say he was terrible, but he wasn't awesome either. And certainly the goaltending there is being tested for sure. Alex Lyons already dealt with some injuries, so obviously staying healthy would be a blessing there. I mean, the Red Wings are a team that's definitely had their fair share of struggles, comparable to a team like Ottawa, for example. They're both lower in the standings and hoping to make that big step this year that neither so far has been able to make. I mean, they've had their moments where they look fine, and they're not completely out of it. It's still possible, but it's kind of like the old expression is getting late early for these teams. Again, you can't get too far behind, because even if you're talking 6, 7 points, 8 points, it might not seem like a lot. You're like, oh, we get a 4 or 5 game winning streak, and then we're right back in it. Well, it's not really the case, because you get too many teams in between you and the last playoff team, and it just becomes too much to overcome. You can't win the cup in November, but a bad November can cause you to not be able to compete for it. And happens time and time again. So not good news there in Detroit. They're certainly one of the teams we're kind of monitoring as well for a potential coaching change after another not great start to the NHL season. Captain Quinn Hughes of the Vancouver Canucks set a team franchise record today in the all-time books, which is kind of surprising. When you take a look at it, it goes to show you just how deprived this team has been. They've never had a player like him before. So he set the team record for all-time leader in assists by a defenseman. The previous record holder was Alex Edler, who had 310 assists. Quinn Hughes picked up a couple of helpers today, putting him at 312. Actually, I think he might have had one after that as well. But he ended up passing Edler today. Here's the difference in games played. Alex Edler did this with 925 games. Quinn Hughes has only played 388. So when we're all said and done here, we're probably going to be a case where Hughes is going to have a potential time. I don't know if he could triple it, but he can double it for sure, and probably double it and then some. So it's pretty crazy. Like, when the Canucks drafted Hughes, they made a good deal, good move. They really have never had a player like him in their franchise before. Now, some trade talk. And I want to take a look at Mitch Marner's contract as well. Let's start with Marner, actually, because it's not really a trade. It's still a rumor, but it's a different kind of rumor. And it's really kind of debating. This all comes from Justin Bourne and Nick Kyprios on their show and Slash podcast, debating the Marner situation and whether or not he's going to re-sign. It was a combination of, is it about, what they can offer him and what he'll accept, and does he want to stay? Up until right now, this is the first real connected media members we've kind of heard in Leafland, if you will, that's kind of made a question, if you will, whether or not he wants to stay. I mean, in all honesty, we've heard reports in the past suggesting that if the Leafs were going to trade Marner, this would have been like before his no trade kicked in, that he was accepting the fact that, it might happen and there's certain teams he might be willing to go to. So, but I mean, that's a different scenario, right? This was still, I think, largely under the old regime. I know once Brad Treliving took over, rumors, started to fly again. And then, well, here we are, right? And now Marner's in a situation where he's a pending unrestricted free agent. Completely different story and different scenario. They need to decide if he's a part of the team's future or not. And if so, what's the contract look like? And he's playing really well for them, obviously, especially in Matthews' absence. He's been phenomenal. He's, on pace for the first time to pass 100 points. He's gotten really close on a few occasions, been 90 plus, but hasn't cracked over 100, and he might do it this year. Obviously lots of runway left, so it's hard to say for sure. But still, Mitch Marner at this point, the big thing for a lot of fans, though, is it's not the regular season. It's not that they don't care that he's on pace for 100 points. That's all good and dandy. They want to see him in the playoffs. And it's not that I think Marner does get a bad rap for being a bad playoff performer. I don't think he is. It's not overall. He just, to me, when the pressure is at its peak in a Game 7, Game 6 closeout scenario, that seems to be when he doesn't come through. Otherwise, in the earlier parts, like, if you look at his points per game and stuff in the playoffs, like his overall stats, it's really not that bad. And he actually has decent results that way. Now, we talked before, like TNT were talking on their panel about, would you trade Marner for Rantanen? And Rantanen has even better numbers in the playoffs than Marner does. He's got a Stanley Cup to his name. So, no, even on the Steve Dangle podcast, they were talking about that scenario. And Steve said that, would he make that trade? He probably would. Because, you love Marner. He's great. He does all kinds of great things, but Rantanen has a better track record overall, right? He has even better results, a cup to his name. That's what you're looking for here, right? So the big debate, though, with Bourne and Kipper here is more like, what are you paying him? You have to go to him and say, listen, we are, fond of what you do for us. We know you're a big part of the team, but we can't pay you more than McDavid. We can't pay you more than Draisaitl. We can't pay you more than Matthews. We can't pay you more than the top 3 or 4 players here in the league. So it has to be somewhere around that 13 or a little bit, give or take a little bit around there is the highest you can go with a Marner contract. And you have to hope that he's going to accept that. And then they said, well, how do we know Marner is going to want to stay? And they talked about the fact of the toxicity that comes with the Toronto market. He's like, Marner's still a young man. Obviously he's married now. We're assuming that they're probably going to start a family soon. Obviously that's an assumption. Shouldn't assume that because you never know what everybody's personal preferences are or whatever. But, realistically thinking, they're in those prime years to do that, right? What do you want to put his kids through that? Imagine this kid and, starting kindergarten, grade 1, and hearing all your dad's contract, screwed the Leafs. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so they talked about all the outside noise and all the toxicity that can come with being in such a passionate and crazy fan market, for the team. And does, with all he's dealt with, all the criticism, the highs and the lows, does he want to put himself through that on an 8-year deal, take all this money? And, what if it doesn't work out, right? Then you have all that negativity and all the criticism that comes with it. But then again, if it does work out, which is what you want to go with and have the confidence in yourself, like he said before, he could be viewed upon as like a hockey god in the city and be a big part of the team that brought a Stanley Cup after all those years. That's how you have to think about it, right? You have to be positive, power positive thinking here and be like, okay, I'm going to be part of the team that brings it back and that we're going to win. So I don't know if you can really look at things that way. And if I'm Marner, I guess, would I be worried about that? Probably to some degree, because I'm sure it's not fun and it's not easy to block out the outside noise. Basically, they said if Marner felt he could block out the outside noise and that there was an offer on the table, somewhere around that $13 million mark, and both sides were, that he would probably sign tomorrow and this would all be over with. We wouldn't have to debate whether or not Marner's staying in Toronto. And that's probably true. Like if, to be honest, I think that the Leafs more likely would prefer to keep him. But if they're going to keep him, they have to keep him within reason. It has, like I said, can he be a top paid player? Sure. But he can't be a top 4 or 5 player. Like, he has to come in that somewhere between Nylander and Matthews, and kind of like what we've already had, similar type structure. The Tavares contract's coming off the books. I suspect there's a good chance that JT stays, but, we know that in that negotiation, and he's going to have to come in a lot lower. We've heard they're probably going to use deferred money to bring that AAV down. So you're probably, ideally it sounds like the team would like to get that between 4 and 5. We've heard that JT's camp was looking at like 6, 7. So there's obviously a debate there too and negotiation to take place. But, all that being said, will Marner want to stay is the big question here. And to be honest, I'm surprised I'm hearing that because we've heard nothing about how much he loves being a Leaf. We've heard nothing about, playing in his hometown and bringing a Stanley Cup there would be his lifelong dream. And at the end of the day here, I think if he decides that he does not want to deal with that, then I question about his really desire to win and want to be the hero. Because if I'm that good of a hockey player playing in my home market, and I think I can be part of the solution to help bring the team a cup or multiple cups, not only do I want the money, but I want that ability to try to be the hero and to go down in history as one of the people that are revered in my market in my hometown as being somebody who helped change the culture and to bring Stanley Cups. Like, you would think he would want that and want the challenge, right? So to me, I'm surprised to hear it, but at the end of the day, let me know what you think on the Marner situation. Does he want to stay? Can they get it done for, give or take 13 or a little less million? Or, if not, what's this going to come to? Where's it going to go? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Now, when it comes to some other teams here, the Rangers, we've talked a lot about trade talk and all the different moves they can make. One thing I came across today was saying how if the Rangers, if they don't make a big deal soon, especially if Trouba's not traded, say in the next 3-4 weeks, a lot of debate on whether or not they could take the captaincy from him. And I have to think that there's got to be some awkwardness around that room already with all the rumors out there and how much publicity this has been given. There's been times when the captains looked checked out, had the wheels beat off of them in the Montreal game. Josh Anderson did a number on him. Like, you got to think, though, that with taking that from him would make things so awkward. It's already got to be there, right? I just don't know. I'm losing confidence in the Rangers for sure, and not only to be a contender with the current makeup, but you have to think that things could implode internally. And then the bigger thing there is you got to be worried about is the Igor Shesterkin stuff, right? Does Igor decide that the heck, there's all this drama here and all this change now that might be coming? Do I want to be a part of this? It might be more than just money for him. So that's a big question. But, should the Rangers really consider stripping the captaincy of Trouba? And if they do that, do they give it to somebody else? And if so, who do they give it to? That's a tough question. Because, in the past, you would have thought, well, if Trouba wasn't the captain, would it maybe be Chris Kreider? But his name is out there, too, in the rumor mill. Maybe somebody they would move. I don't think you're looking at a guy like Zibanejad. By the way, his season's gone. Adam Fox hasn't had a great year. I don't know who you turn to there. I don't know that there's a real obvious choice. In the past, I would have said Kreider, but now I don't know. So let me know what you think. Is it possible we're going to see the Rangers come to that before a trade? And if so, who should they turn to for the next captain? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. In Montreal, Darren Dreger's reporting. This is not going to really be new news per se, but lots of talk around the Habs and his latest hits around the radio world. He's talking about mainly 4 players that are on the market for Montreal, which includes Muriel Armia, Christian Dvorak, David Savard, and of course, Jake Evans. Now, I know there have fans. I think Evans should stay, and it's not a given that he's going to go. But it kind of takes away from some of the other names we've been hearing. Like with Kirby Dach's name being out there recently from Elliot Friedman, there has been, I did see an article that there was somebody whose claims to have checked with the team saying that they refute that they still see Dach as being a big part of the future. But you know what? I would not expect anybody from Montreal to come out and be like, yeah, we're kind of frustrated with how things have gone for him, and we're really looking at trading him. Like, they're not going to come out and say that ever about anybody. So you have to take these comments with a grain of salt, even if they are legit. So in all honesty, I don't think they're in a rush to move Dach, but I have to think that, a team comes calling with an interesting, maybe younger player prospect coming back. I think they have to think about it. Things have not really worked out the way you're hoping to, and I know some fans want to be more patient here, given his long absence last year, basically missing the whole season because of injury. So we'll see what happens, but certainly those are the 4 players that are on the market for Montreal. I don't know that there's Savard's been linked to Edmonton. I don't know between Dvorak and Armia that there's a ton of interest. We've heard Jake Evans being mentioned with numerous cup contenders. We've heard Boston, Washington, some teams in the Western Conference too. I think they would be able to get a good return on Savard, and I think they could get I think the return on Evans might be good enough that they might not be able to justify keeping him. That's where my head is at. So we'll see. And in Ottawa, more reports from the fourthperiod.com today suggesting that the Sens are carefully doing their due diligence, looking at multiple moves, multiple options. For one, according to Dave Pagnotta, they're looking for a power-type forward. They're looking for a middle 6 forward with, good two-way kind of reliable, dependable player who can chip in offensively but be responsible defensively, as well as a two-way right shot defenseman to kind of help stabilize the back end. The only name that's been out there for Ottawa to move is Josh Norris, and I'm not entirely convinced they're going to rush to do that. For one, teams are probably going to be leery taking the contract because of his shoulder injury history. This is the first year he's been healthy in a little bit. Of course, he's doing pretty well. It's not like they want to move him because he's not doing well. Is he doing as well as you'd like? Not consistently. Like for me, if you look at the Senators, it's not even their top guys. That's the problem right now. Tkachuk, Stützle, Adam got not surprising everybody here. Even Batherson and Norris, they're doing pretty well. Like their numbers don't really indicate a bad performance here. For me, it's the depth. They're not getting anything out of the depth. They signed Michael Amadio, and he hasn't done much of it. And he's been okay defensively, but he's not giving any secondary scoring. David Perron's had a lot of off-ice stuff going on, so we certainly feel for him, and I think we can cut him some slack, but still, a player you thought would be there contributing hasn't happened. Except the reasons why you can live with a little bit better, but at the same time, it's still affecting the team. Looking at Shane Pinto is one of the main players that's part of the long-term solution, at least you think he is, that's not performing. Ridley Gregg is a little bit younger. I think you cut him some slack. In all honesty, he still has a long ways to go. But right now, he's kind of shown that he's not ready for the top six. He might have to play more of a bottom six role, which he can do. He's versatile that way. Pinto needs to get going, though. Now, in his defense, he's had an injury that kept him out for about half of the game so far. And then at the same time, his line mates have been so inconsistent. Like he was supposed to play with Amadio and Perron. They haven't had that much time together. Perron's been away a lot. He hasn't really had, the greatest, quality line mates besides, and him and Amadio just to me haven't really worked. So like it's tough. I can cut Pinto a little bit of slack, but he needs to find a way to become more engaged and more active here in the offense because they need secondary scoring, and he is one of the big culprits here. He hasn't had a point in 10 games. So as far as these players that they're targeting, they definitely need a defenseman. As far as the forwards go, I don't know what they would do. I mean, I do think that they would move some of their depth that hasn't worked out, but I mean, nobody's going to be cutting them any slack here and just giving them a big upgrade, so not going to be easy to do. I know one team that I've seen people talking about that might have made sense was Philly. I know maybe Joel Farabee is a player, but I mean, he's not exactly what you call a power forward, so I don't know that he's, perfect for them, but he is somebody who has the ability to score and can play in the middle six, so, maybe he's an option. I don't know, but they're definitely out there exploring. I don't think they're in a huge rush. They play the Anaheim Ducks here tonight, which is getting ready to get started here shortly, and after that, the next couple of games will be a big telling tale here where things go, but according to Dave Pagnotta and Steve Staios, is definitely working the market, looking at multiple different things, and we'll have to see here soon, and results tell everything. Winning makes problems go away, and it's kind of within their control to do what they can do here. Otherwise, we're going to see significant change, I think, coming within that roster. So let me know your thoughts on all of today's news and rumors down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.